Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today for the launch of the 2022 See It, Be It STEM calendar. We are so happy to be back together to celebrate a great group of STEM role models. As we gather, we are reminded that wealth is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples today. As a community, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the land on which we live and work on. Today, we acknowledge the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation of the Anishinaabe peoples on whose traditional territory we are meeting. My name is Lena Kumar, and I am a member of the Linamar Entrepreneurial Advancement Program. It is my pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies today. For today's event, please note that masks will need to be always on, except for when seated, eating, or drinking. Please remember to sanitize often and to physical distance when possible. Now, I would like to welcome See It, Be It STEM founder. She earned both her bachelor degree of science in chemistry and an MBA from Western University, and she is the Chief Executive Officer of Linamar Corporation. Linda is involved in many initiatives that advocate for women in STEM, is the co-chair of the Canada-United States Council for the Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs and Business Leaders, and the champion behind the pillar, Increasing Women in STEM Roles.
Thanks so much, Nina. Great to have you here as our Master of Ceremonies tonight, and welcome to all our role models. It's just so great to have you all here tonight, and hopefully some of your family and friends and all the other supporters in our production team. So, we're very excited about the launch of the 2022 calendar. This is our 4th edition of the calendar. I can't believe that we already have four completed. And it's, of course, the calendars are a cornerstone of a bigger project, right? Our entire See It, Be It STEM project, which includes a website with all kinds of fantastic female role models in all kinds of areas in STEM, including, by the way, Nina. That's also on the website. I have always believed that science, technology, engineering, and math are really fascinating areas of study, but also can lead to really exciting careers, and you're going to see that firsthand tonight. As a word, I'm a STEM grad myself, having studied chemistry at Western, and I feel like it taught me a lot of really important skills around critical thinking, around process flow, the need for precision, and good decision-making skills as well. So I feel like I've really employed those throughout my career. You know, when I think about today's really rapidly evolving technology in our world, there's just such a huge demand for STEM grads to create, to implement, to drive that technology evolution and innovation that's so critical to competitiveness. I know at Linamar, we think a lot about that, and the need for us to be competitive in innovation and technology is just such an important part of that. I think science and technology and innovation are also at the core of solving some of our planet's biggest issues, whether it's climate change or feeding a growing global population, making sure we all have access to clean water. These are things that STEM grads are doing and problems that we're solving, which is exciting. And of course, STEM grads were really critical over the last 2 years as we went through this COVID-19 pandemic, whether it be around developing vaccines, retooling manufacturing lines like we did to make ventilators, developing technology that we could use to work remotely really effectively. We can thank STEM grads for saving a lot of lives and making lives a lot easier through this really difficult time. You know, when I think about our economy, where we're going in the future, I feel like we need more and more entrepreneurs and more leaders to create businesses like Linamar, that are based on these exciting advances in technology. And I think that to achieve that economic imperative, we really need to encourage more young people to pursue a STEM education, and particularly women. Because if we want all kinds of new entrepreneurs and business leaders, we need to tap into 100% of the population. So every gender and every diverse ethnic group, everybody, okay, so that we can really tap into the talent and the ideas and the skills that are out there. Our goal with the calendar is pretty simple. It's to inspire young women into a STEM career by showcasing incredible women like you're going to hear about today, who also happen to be scientists, technologists, engineers, and mathematicians. Our team was actually inspired by another calendar project that we learned about several years ago in the US. They called theirs See It Be It, so admittedly we did sort of like mostly take their name, but I did check with them that it was going to be okay. So it was a couple of women in California actually who came up with this idea of like, let's bust the stereotypes around, you know, who studies STEM and who doesn't study STEM, and created this cool calendar, and I really like the idea. So, you know, society often has a mistaken image of people in STEM. When we even look at STEM grads, you can see it in the women right here in this room. We're as diverse as the overall population, right? Some are into sports, some are into hiking, some are competitive athletes. Others love cooking or baking or dancing or art. Others are incredible musicians and artists. You know, I actually think there's a particular link between creativity and STEM grads, which has been a continued theme actually in our role models, and I think isn't really well understood. You can be both science and math and creative and artsy, and the fact is a lot of STEM grads are. And the bottom line is STEM grads, like anybody else, are having exciting, vibrant, fun-filled lives, and doing all kinds of exciting things inside and outside of work. And so it's great to have a chance to share that with you. And as noted, the project is more than just a calendar, of course. It's a comprehensive program that we've tried to put together to reach out to young women through social media, through our website, and other events that we've held to try to have some of our role models speak to young women and hopefully inspire them into a career in studies in STEM. So I want to take a minute to thank our entire production team who did an amazing job of putting this program together and creating this incredible calendar. I think it just looks so fantastic. So thank you for your incredible creativity and hard work. I will say that picking the role models to feature in the calendar from our growing list of women on the website is an increasingly difficult challenge. There are just so many great and interesting stories of women working and succeeding in all kinds of different areas. So it's a tough choice, but I really love the group that we put together this year, ranging from engineers to machinists to nutrition and technology experts to environmental scientists and even a jellyfish researcher, just to name a few. So I don't want to give it all away, but thank you to each one of you for taking part in the project this year and giving of your time to selflessly inspire others. We are just so excited to share all your stories tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it back over to Lena, and we're going to jump into presenting you with our See It Be It STEM role models for 2022.
Thank you for that speech, Linda. Now, I would like to introduce our 2022 role models.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Testify the motion, loving this devotion.
See It Be It STEM It is an initiative we started at Linamar a few years ago designed to attract more young women into science, trades, technology, engineering, and math through the use of role models.
Most days, if you were to Google the word engineer, you will find a lot of white men in hard hats, and that is definitely not me. So I think that the way that I often joke that the most radical thing I'll ever do in this space is just exist as an engineer, because I think representation is so important, and just being able to see yourself. And it's not that they need to go into these roles, it's just that these are options on the table for them, because that was something I didn't really understand growing up until I kind of accidentally ended up in engineering.
STEM is such a vast, broad field that I truly believe that if it's something you're passionate about, you will find your path and you will find what you love. And so my advice would be to chase that passion and to not let anything stop you.
Just follow your heart and do what feels right, and do what feels right at the moment. Don't worry about what's going to happen 20 years from now. Just take each day as it comes and follow your heart.
I think young people can change the world because they absolutely have so much passion and so much motivation, and no matter what the world tells you, if you believe in something and if you're passionate about something, do it. Even if it's to cure cancer, and if you think you can do it, then do it. Never let anyone tell you that you can't. That's my advice.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the motion, loving this devotion.
When I first got out of high school, I wasn't like the best student, and where I kind of ended up in my journey was working as a pastry chef in kind of more of a upper-scale restaurant where a lot of it was kind of those gastro kind of science-y based dishes. Definitely working in kitchens is a hard lifestyle, and I decided to bite the bullet and go back to school. So I took a degree in food science and nutrition. It was a combined degree. So I did kind of a capstone project, and I was creating some really fun protein-based ice creams, and it was crazy to realize that that was like a job that existed. So then I kind of got into product development. It was really exciting. My job is the best combination of creativity and science, because you kind of get to dream up these really fun ideas and think of things that nobody's ever done before, but then implement it through science. And it's like, I was never a kid that was specifically one science-minded or creative. It was kind of both. So picking one or the other, like it felt like you had to pick one, but realizing that this was an option was kind of like life-changing for me, because I'm like, you can combine both. That's the creative side and the science. Failing is not a bad thing. It's better because then you know you're making progress. So it's failing forward and pushing through that like phase, because there's always a phase of product development where you hate your product and you're like, oh God, I don't even like this anymore. And then you come back and it starts developing, and it's like, it's coming together and you see it as a full concept. And that's kind of where you have to get to, but you can't let the failing get you down.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the motion, loving this devotion.
Well, how I ended up in woodworking, it was actually by accident. I wasn't meant to be in the class originally, but I was placed in that class. Spending a semester in the course itself, I got to learn how to work with machines and work with metal and work with wood as well. And then for the robotics team, my teacher actually taught me how to build robots. And at first, I didn't know how to build a robot. I had no idea what a robot really was, like how to make it. But over time, he taught me how things come together. And with his team, we were able to build a few different robots over the years. So after 3 years of that competition, I ended up graduating from high school and then pursuing a pathway in the trades in college. I'm a visual learner, so I love seeing everything and just feeling proud of what I've done. So I can see my work in front of me and just knowing that I did that and I built that. I just enjoy seeing everything comes together and just knowing that I put, like everything we did as a team, it finally came together, the final product, just seeing it being assembled and just knowing that I had a part in that. And I played a role too as well. That's why I enjoy working with my hands. Well, what brings me the most joy in my work is that I'm able to really connect with young women and inspire youth to enter these fields. Like, it's hard to imagine a tradesperson if you can't see one, especially there's not a lot of women in this field. And just connecting with young people and helping them find their path is really something that I enjoy, because I want people to find their dream jobs and be able to be happy with their lives and be able to have a great future.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the potion, loving this devotion.
Since I was 10, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I started a small nail business and then a dog walking business, and that's when I was like, I just want to work for myself all the time, forever. There's different aspects to my work. I manage a team, I research, I work in a lab, I present, I pitch. I think the fact that it's so different every day and it's a new thing every single day to work on, a new challenge to tackle, I think that's what brings me the most joy. I think as a young CEO, as a young woman, the world finds different ways to tell you no, whether that's your age, your experience, your gender. I think personally I've experienced almost all of those things, and every single time you hear a no, there's a reason behind why that's a no, and you can turn it into a yes because you can learn why, you can modify what you're doing, and then you can keep going until you reach the goal that you want to reach.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the potion, loving this devotion.
I always describe my passion for the ocean as having a favorite color. Like, you don't really know why it's your favorite color, but you like it. The ocean's the same way for me. I grew up on the water. My family are really big into fishing. I was really interested in watching ocean documentaries. When I was a kid, I watched The Little Mermaid on repeat. I wore out our VHS tape. I've just always been really interested in it. And so it was a pretty natural career path for me to choose something related to the ocean. The bravest thing I think I've done, I grew up in rural northern Alberta in a town of maybe 40,000 people. And when I was 17, I finished high school and I moved to Vancouver. And the campus alone has about 10 times the number of undergrads as my hometown does. And so that was a challenge to be so young and move away from home. Jellyfish are really fun to study because, they are very old. So they're like one of the oldest lineages of animals in the world. The only thing older than them is like sponges. They've had so much time, maybe like 600 million years to perfect evolution, and they're just streamlined and they have exactly what they need and nothing more. And so they're just perfect.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the potion, loving this devotion.
So most days, if you were to Google the word engineer, you will find a lot of white men in hard hats, and that is definitely not me, which means that for someone like me, who's a queer woman of color, it's not always easy to find your footing, and it's not always, you're never the majority, ever. So just by existing, you're breaking barriers. Just by being yourself, going to every meeting, going to every conference, doing your job on a day-to-day basis, that's innately breaking barriers. And I find the more authentic you are to yourself, the more you're bringing that diverse perspective and the more you're contributing to the community in a way that little kids and people seeing this calendar, for instance, are getting a new perspective of what an engineer really can be. I actually started EngiQueers when I was just in my second year of university at McMaster. And it was just intended to be a social connection kind of club at the beginning. But what really grew was, the need for more services, the need for professional development, and we started also giving these talks and trainings externally at conferences. We're so much farther than just the conversation of women in engineering. We're now also, we're passionate about queer people in engineering. We're passionate about people of color in engineering. It's really just taking that intersectional approach to the problem. Any young person going into engineering, whether it's my background specifically of materials engineering, or if it's manufacturing, product development, mechanical, anything like that, I would just say stay open-minded, enjoy those classes, make friends, have lots of great experiences throughout university, and then when you enter the real world, just try to stay authentic to yourself and be flexible. Know that change is constant. The only thing that's constant is change, in fact. So the more comfortable you can get with that, evolving pace of life is just, again, the more comfortable you will be.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the motion, loving this devotion.
So I work for a consulting firm that works exclusively with Indigenous nations across Canada. I consider myself a Jill of all trades, partially because I'm an environmental scientist, so you have to know a little bit about all of the different environmental disciplines. And whenever a development is being proposed across Canada, our clients get us to review what's being proposed and help them determine whether there's anything that could be impacting their rights, so their rights to fish and harvest, for example. When I was in high school, I had the impression that I had to know in grade 12 exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I found that really daunting, and I was stressed beyond belief trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And in hindsight, all of the different decisions that I made and the different twists and turns in my career path have all culminated to where I am today and where I am so happy. The bravest thing that I've ever done, I would say, is quit a job that looked perfect on paper, but just did not fill my heart and soul the way that a job should. Just because a job is something that you spend so many hours doing, and it should be something that you feel fulfilled and like you're doing something that feels right with your heart.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the motion, loving this devotion.
I work at PwC Canada. I'm a manager in our technology consulting team. Every project is with a new client, and that means you get to know about whatever industry they're in. So in a year, you might work with hundreds of new people, and with that comes obviously its own challenges and positive things to do and a lot of impacts that you get to make. So I come from electrical engineering background, and when I started to apply to all of these consulting firms, people used to tell me, even my close friends, that, oh, you don't come from business background or commerce, you don't have any choice getting in. But I really believed in what I want to do, and I really wanted to try it to see how it goes. So I just powered through and started studying for all of these interviews and whatnot, and I got in, and I think the people who were interviewing me really saw that I'm passionate about this and wanted to give me a chance. So it's been 6 years that I'm doing it, and I really love it. My advice to my younger self or other people who want to go to this field is that, again, just believe in yourself and don't feel like if people tell you that, oh, you can't do this or you're not enough. Just do it and do what your heart takes you. And I think that's the only way that you can challenge yourself and also grow, and just trust the journey because it's going to be great anyways.
that sugar sweet. You got what I need. Tested by the motion. Loving this devotion.
I created Camp Engies with the intention of increasing the percentage of women in engineering and creating a space free of gender bias, showing the girls other engineering role models who are also very well-rounded, outgoing, and energetic, and showing them engineering is not just for men at a computer or men who build bridges. We're all of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different stories. And seeing girls that are very similar to us when we were youth and maybe more shy connect and support each other, it brings me so much joy. Actually seeing the girls understand the basic concepts of engineering, so relating everyday life to engineering. So, they're climbing up the high ropes and we relate it to the gravitational forces, or force equals mass times acceleration. And it's all clicking as they're performing an activity or as they're eating their ice cream. They're thinking, how did a chemical engineer design this ice cream? So just by relating it and then seeing them connect and feeling the same passion we do, and then just teaching them about engineering in general. It's not just about being great at the math and sciences. If you're creative, you'll actually be a better engineer because you come up with different solutions to one problem. But if we can just inspire them and show them these are the basics of engineering, you have the ability, you can do it, just believe in yourself, and you will be golden for the rest of your life.
Sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the motion, loving this devotion.
I think a good way to become an ecologist is just to be out in nature. Just find any nature space and go out for a walk and be mindful. Be curious about your surroundings and feel yourself as part of that ecosystem, not as a foreigner, but as a guest who's also part of it. And I think that really sparks the interest in that beautiful field that is ecology. What brings me the most joy in my work is the diversity of it. I love being in the field, I love being in the lab, I love data analysis. I love writing, creative writing. I'm beginning to enjoy more academic writing as well. I love doing things with my hands. I love teaching. And I love the flexibility that I'm having right now in my PhD, where I get to make my own hours and get to do all these different things that are related to what I do. What I feel right now, the bravest thing I've done is to get on that PhD and I think take that leap of faith that I could finish it, because there's a lot of stories of people not being able to finish it or taking a very long time to do it. And I have been feeling since I was a teenager that this is what I wanted to do. That pursuit of knowledge was what really was attracting me. And so feeling that confidence that I could see it to the finish line was brave for me.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the motion, loving this devotion.
I love science because I have always been curious about the world. I always wanted to find answers to certain things, like why does a rainbow form or why is the sky blue? And science gave me the toolkit that allowed me to experiment myself and find answers and make sense of the experiments that I'm doing. So that's why I love science. What brings me the most joy in my work is when my students have connected the dots and their brains have clicked. So like that little light bulb moment that I see day to day in the classroom, because the subject that I teach, chemistry, sometimes it's really difficult for the students to grasp, especially because we're trying to make sense of things that we don't really see. And so when they're able to sort of connect something that they are observing in life and to something that we're learning in a classroom, that's when I realize that I've done my job as a teacher and they are able to be the best students that they can be in my classroom. I think it's important to have teachers of color because representation matters. When I was growing up, like the teachers who really impacted my life were the teachers that I saw myself in. And I didn't realize how much it mattered to me until I became a teacher myself. And then I saw myself in the classroom and looking back at a group of students who looked like me. And that meant so much to them because they realized that they could be a teacher themselves. And I had other colleagues who didn't have that opportunity, and they realized very early on that they couldn't do it. Like they basically told themselves that narrative. And I didn't want to contribute to that, which is why I think it's so important to have teachers of color.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the potion, loving this devotion.
The bravest thing I've done was deciding to go back to school for computer science. I had already finished my 4-year chemistry degree, so I was ready to go off and get a job. And I was just scared to go back to school just because I didn't know anything about the program. I was really new to the field, so I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. But it obviously ended up being a really good decision for me, and I'm obviously really happy in my career and happy I made that choice. My advice to young people going into technology would be to explore all that technology has to offer. When I was first coming in, I thought you either coded or you weren't in technology, but there's so many different job opportunities, and the rotational program allowed me to see that. So I would just encourage people to take that time and explore all those opportunities before you get into the field. What brings me the most joy in my work is just being able to wear multiple hats. So I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do, where I wanted to end up in my career. So it really allows me to be that middleman between business and technology. So I love being able to use my technology background and then also use my communication skills to communicate with the business. It creates a really unique opportunity for me.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Tested by the potion, loving this devotion.
I love the research that I'm doing because I truly feel like what our lab is hoping for is improving the lives of others. And so with my cancer immunotherapy research, that's something we're striving to do. And that's what keeps me passionate and wanting to continue is, you know, the other side of the tunnel of what we're working towards. Being an athlete and an engineer has always been two of my priorities. I've been playing hockey my whole life, and I really didn't want to stop once I got to school. So engineering is a very course-heavy program, but I really wanted to do both, and so I just developed great time management skills, and I wanted something that would keep me active and keep me a little sane while going through this tough program. So it was really important to me to keep them both in my life. My advice would be to follow your dreams, and STEM is such a vast, broad field that I truly believe that if it's something you're passionate about, you will find your path and you will find what you love. And so my advice would be to chase that passion and to not let anything stop you.
Now I would like to welcome back to the stage Sandra, Vanessa, Atina, and Austin for our Fireside Chats. Ladies, please.
Well, thank you so much for joining me up here this evening. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody to get a little bit more advice and a little bit more insight into your journeys as some of them plan their own. So thank you so much for doing this. We've already heard all about you. We know what you've done up till this point. So I'm just going to launch into questions because everyone knows you now. So I think the first question that I think is really interesting is what inspired you first to, maybe what or who inspired you to decide that you wanted to study in STEM, that you wanted to embark on a career in STEM? Like, was there a moment, was there a person that did that for you? Vanessa, I see you nodding your head. I can start with you. Yeah. All right.
Hello. All right. So for me, I think it was a couple things. Firstly, my mom's actually in the audience. Hey, Mom. She always encouraged me to take the maths and sciences in high school to just kind of keep my options open. And I took that very much to heart. And then in grade 12, I just spoke to some colleagues and friends who were studying engineering and had parents and stuff in the field. And the more I thought about what I liked about school, it was really that like problem solving, applied knowledge, etc. And yeah, it was kind of how it worked for me. I just fell into it, honestly. Engineering specifically, I always knew STEM was interesting, but engineering specifically wasn't until grade 12.
Great, that's great, and I couldn't agree more. The support of your parents is so important. That they are encouraging and even suggesting that you step into some of these areas of study. What about the rest of you? Austin.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, I for a while, I was a doctor, and a mom who actually taught me foods in high school. She was a food, and I just, her thing was always on science and food, cooking and everything, and just to help you get it. Simple to make.
Give her the mic.
Yeah, just a couple of really amazing women professors in my back at the U of A in the nutrition and food science area that I still talk to this day, and I still email them and pick their brain and I love them. So.
Me, there's just been so many steps. I think it all started with Dexter on Cartoon Networks when I was 8. Feels like I've been wanting to be in STEM as long as I can remember. And after that, there was this documentary I watched when I was 10 about climate change in class that really got me doing that. And I just wanted to protect the environment and do something about it. And then I think what led me to doing a PhD is when I did an internship when I was 15 at the Institut Pasteur in Tunisia. And that was 1 week in a lab talking with many female grad students, actually, it was only female grad students, and the PI, and getting to know about the whole path of doing research. And that's how I decided that I was going to do a PhD.
Awesome. Tina.
For me, it was mainly two main things. One, similar to you guys, a lot of you, I had parents in STEM, so my dad was an electrical engineer, my mom was a medical doctor, but also I grew up in Iran, and there we have this thing called university exam, where everyone, the last year of high school, you take it across the country, and then usually when you get a good ranking, and they rank every student with that, and if you get a good ranking, usually what happens is you either become a doctor or engineer. So that's how it happened for me.
That's awesome. So tell me, coming off of that then, how can we encourage more women to follow in your footsteps and do what you've done? I feel like the numbers are growing. It feels like every year. I mean, University of Toronto is 45% women in their engineering program, which is amazing. So, like, there's a lot more women now than ever before. I don't feel like people know that, like, for one thing. But tell me what you think. Like, what do you think we should do to encourage more women to do what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so I think for me it always comes down to two things. Firstly is when we talk about the leaky pipeline, the pipeline from, birth to, full-time engineer, full-time STEM person, there's so many different opportunities for people to pivot into a different path and not take the path of STEM. So I think it's targeting communication to different audiences, like at the grade 4 to 6 level, the high school level, and then even within the university. Like, it's great that U of T and these schools are seeing better representation, but it's making sure these women are feeling supported and like you have the inclusion along with the diversity, because that is, a core crux to the problem is just people not feeling welcome in the space. And I think for me the second thing is that intersectionality piece of really just, the conversation has to go beyond women, because society has gone so much farther into conversation of diversity and inclusion that it's almost like, wow, you haven't even figured out women? Why would I, like, how could I as a queer woman of color fit into that space if, like, just maybe the female is a problem? So.
That's such a good point. What do you think?
I think that it's upon each of us, right? To have those conversations with everyone around us as well. Like, if we have a niece, if we have a nephew, if we have kids, if we see people across the street, our neighbors and whatnot, like, we just have those conversations and talk to kids about what we do, because I think it starts at a very young age, all of those biases, unconscious or conscious, and I truly believe in that, and I always, and maybe it's just me, I love talking to kids, I just love kids, but I always do that, I try to explain what I do to them. I think it has such a great impact when each of us do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like the more voices that you hear, the more that you believe and remember and understand. You hear one person talking about something all the time, then it's something else. But if somebody's out in the playground across the street talking to everybody about all the kids about STEM, like, it's just one more voice, and it starts to really resonate, I think, with people. What do you think, Austin?
I think a huge thing, for me at least, when I was in junior high school, was it's like engineering and science, and it feels so grasping and broad that you're like, cool, but what do I do with that? It just feels like this massive gray space. So like, maybe, like education around what roles exist, and like you said it, where if there's something you're interested in, you can find a job within STEM to suit that for you and fit kind of like exactly what you're interested in. So education around what roles and jobs exist. And for me personally, like finding a tutor in university that was a woman, and it felt very like it was the first time I was getting confidence in all these pieces. So that was like really important to like see myself in that.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice, and so insightful that there are so many different jobs out there that can, suit whatever it is specifically that you like. I remember we had a role model last year who was an engineer, but she loved dance and performance, and she actually works for Cirque du Soleil and does all their safety equipment, plans out all their acts from a safety and equipment perspective. So she's found a way to combine her passion for dance and performance with her engineering skills. So I love those examples. What do you think, Sam?
I think at this point it's more of a system issue rather than just the passion of the women themselves. I think the system has really been built for women. The workspace, careers have been built around men, and they haven't really been built to accommodate women and kind of other desires that they have in their lives, other than their careers. In the academic world, I think this is one of the reasons why I may not continue in this path, because the expectations of work are things that do not align with what I want in my life and outside of my career, and I think that's wrong. So in general, it's not just academia, it's just, I think, a lot of workspaces that are constantly demanding more and more of you in terms of hours and inputs, and not considering the human side of you, and all the different parts of you that, make you who you are, not just your job.
Yeah, and I think it's such a good point because that time away from work, that restorative time, or time with friends or family or talking to colleagues, is time that sort of recharges you for when you are back at work and makes, brings new insights and new energy and passions to the picture. So that balance, I think, is really important. I'm going to keep going with questions, but I do want to let you know that if anyone out there has a question that they wanted to pose to any or all of the panelists, just slap your hand up and I'll grab you. So while you're thinking of that, I'm going to ask the next question, which is, how do you think STEM makes the world a better place? I'm going to start with these here because I think yours is the most obvious.
I mean, water is life. I think that I've come to realize how much water is important to the basic things. It's sanitation, it's clean drinking water, it's food, whether it's the food that you eat from the water itself or the water that you use to then irrigate your crops. And in so many places in the world, even outside of North America, and especially Canada, we're really lucky in terms of the access to water that we have. In many places, especially with climate change, there's really tough conditions right now. People are going through, a lot of people are dying. And so STEM as an answer to trying to understand what is happening, provide solutions is important, but I think we all need to be playing a part in here, because if we're offering the solutions and no one is listening to us, and we're not also listening and considering the social impacts of what's happening, then we're not going to get really far. So STEM is really important, but I think it's one piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, really, really important observations, and I couldn't agree more that the solution to climate change needs to be consumer-driven. That consumers need to be informed, so they know about the products that they're buying and what's the carbon footprint of them. And once they know that and they have that data, they can make the best decision they can within their budget, kind of thing. And that drives companies, right? Because then, that drives development and products, and that drives governments as well. So it all connects together. What do you think?
Something I think is always important is to think about these concepts of philanthropy, diversity, and the environment, not in like a separate silo, but how can it be integrated into every single thing that we do. So for example, with me in the world of toys, I've brought this up a million times, and I've actually been able to lead a lot of initiatives at Spin Master because we're a bit more of an entrepreneurial type company. And, we're a plastics manufacturing firm. Like, we need to have that cognizant context of the environment in what we're doing for the future, for the long term. And I totally agree with you that the consumer has some level of responsibility, but I think the manufacturer has a larger responsibility, especially because even just in a small change, the massive. So because of the magnitudes we're working with. And I also think in terms of diversity and inclusion, like it's the employees, it's the product, it's the culture, it's the messaging you're putting out with we play in the entertainment space. So having new TV shows and stuff, having the representation in media, I think it's important to integrate these philosophies into everything we do, and it's sort of like the corporate social responsibility mindset of just really integrating that thinking all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Bettina?
I personally think STEM is super important, not just from that sustainability and climate change aspect of it in the world today, but it's like we're so dependent on STEM fields. Anything that we do, like this mic, like this chair that's moving, everything. It's just concepts of math and physics and computer engineering, those zeros and ones, but
Thank you. So, question.
Yes.
Vanessa's mom.
Yes. This is white, by the way. Anyways, I had a comment as well as a question. The comment is, I'm so proud of all the young ladies. Amazing job. Sitting here on picture. I didn't have those chances, and you guys have done wonderfully well. My next question is, I would like these types of brilliant minds in politics. Is any one of you thinking that way?
Thanks, Mom.
All of you.
Yes,
yes. Launching her platform.
And now, no. Yeah, no, I think that I've heard a lot of politicians comment that actually, like they want engineers, they want scientists, they want people who have these STEM perspectives in these fields, and I think that there's opportunities to pivot careers these days more than ever. So I think that I agree with you. The idea that more people who are at the forefront of whether it's education, like our own education within STEM, I feel like we have our own perspective in terms of being able to increase the flow for that leaking pipeline concept again in politics. So yeah, I totally think people should get more engaged in whether we're actually running for mayor and stuff, I don't know, but just even lobbying politics as well, I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so important to make data and fact-based decisions. And I feel like a lot of policy decisions are not data and fact-based. They're a little bit more about what popular opinion thinks, which may or may not be data and fact-based. So I like the idea. I second the motion. More women in STEM, or people in STEM in politics. Anybody else want to step up?
Women in general in politics.
There you go. That's it.
I just want to point out that Angela Merkel, I think she has a degree in chemistry, so she's definitely coming from STEM, and it seems like they've done pretty well. So,
great. Other questions over here?
First of all, I just want to say I've been joining with women back and forth. It's like amazing women. They're all absolutely amazing. Tonight I had the opportunity to bring my granddaughter. She's going in for united. So here's my question. Even for me, looking at courses and where you're going, I know I'm really old, so when I went to school, I had to take certain things, but what would your advice be to someone who's going into grade 9 when their course selection is a little overwhelming? You're not really sure what you want to do, where you want to go. So I brought her for inspiration from you ladies. And I did want to agree with the politics thing. I think that if I had a chance, then you should regret it.
Okay, we're going to answer the question about courses. What do you guys think? Who wants to start?
I think, I agree, course selections can be overwhelming. I totally agree. I think, like, if you don't have a particular interest, or you love everything, you're like, okay, I love history, I love math, I love physics, I love all of that. My suggestion would be to pick the ones that gives you the most opportunities down the road, so don't close any doors. That's what I want to say. In terms of, like, absolutely, I'm a fan of taking math courses, for sure, because that's what you need, no matter what you want to do instead, right? And unless you really, really hate them, I would say absolutely take that math course.
Anybody else want to jump in also?
I think sometimes it feels like overwhelming, like things versus when you have to pick specifically, because especially like if we're jumping ahead to university, you're like, I have to capitalize, I need to graduate 4 years, I don't have time to take all of the things. But in the grand scheme of things, like take the random courses that you personally like, read the description, you're like, that was kind of cool, because it might be the one thing that sets you up into another path. And another year,
just want to agree with that. I'm not familiar with the Canadian system because I went to a French school, but I don't know if it matters as much in grade 9 what you take in terms of setting you up for whatever degree you're going to do in university. So especially at this point, just have fun, just cultivate your breath. You don't have to specialize that early at all.
Yeah, I think the comment Tina I think made about just make sure you're not closing doors, right? Like leave those doors open. Don't drop math. Don't drop science. Keep all of those different areas open. I think is really important, and I couldn't agree more with Austin that doing an extra year and getting a little bit more exposure. Maybe once you're in university, for instance, or college, and not worrying about shifting programs. Like so many people do that, and it actually can be super valuable because if you started out at one place and then you took a right turn and you went to somewhere else, it makes you uniquely qualified to do something that you end up doing, right? That somebody else doesn't have because they didn't do those right and left turns. So don't be worried about doing that. As long as you're learning along the way, like you can put all that together in a really unique way in the end. It's great. Other questions from the audience? Don't worry, I've got a lot more questions. So, I'm going to keep it going here while you continue to think. So I wanted to explore a little bit something that I mentioned earlier, this link between science, technology, engineering, math, and creativity. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions that you're either sciencey or you're artsy. Like I so don't believe that. I mean, I don't know what you think. Austin, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think for me, this was like the biggest piece where it felt always like science and like music was like computers and I thought it felt very like linear and stuff. It just felt like it was going to just be like a boring desk job. But that was, I think, the miseducation and that there's so many different areas. And like with any job in science, you have this creative aspect. You're creating things, you're creating new experiments and products and all of the great stuff. So it's just as important as it is to do with your brain.
I agree. I think there's something about the way sometimes STEM programs are designed that kind of kills creativity, where, as you said, it's very linear. We really impose kind of these standardized formats to students. It's good to have some framework to know how to operate, but I think having more classes that also encourage intuition and listening to these other parts of yourself that will get you this really new innovative idea and maybe take you out of the beaten path and come up with something very new and different goes a long way compared to just following the nice framework we set up for yourself.
I think that's really good advice. Vanessa?
Yeah, I think the irony about school is that it is so like there's one answer. You have to, you learn the formulas, you read the question, figure it out, you input, output. Whereas in reality, it's not like that at all. You have these complex problems that don't have clear solutions, and you have to try things and fail, and try again and fail again. And like, it's just the nature of how things work. But I think there, to Austin's point, I think there's creativity in all fields. Like, whether it's, I'm in toy right now, that's probably a bit more obvious why it's creative. But even if I think back to like when I was working at Bombardier Aerospace, like the creativity involved to take a simple bolt off of a plane and figure out why it corroded, like you need to be able to expand your mind and problem solving, that I think that's where the creativity and the artsy side really gets intertwined, because it's like how your brain is processing. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Great example. Tina?
I think for me, what I learned in life and during, as I moved in my career, is we always need multidisciplinary mindsets, and it doesn't matter, we're always solving a problem. And like when we're building a product, we're making a hardware or making a software, it doesn't matter. I think like what we always do at work is we bring people from different backgrounds together to solve a problem, like engineers, designers, people who like different disciplines, and I think that's the only way we can succeed as human beings. And like I'll give you an example also, likely for younger folks is I have a friend, she did master's and bachelor in electrical engineering. Now she's doing a master's, I forgot what it's called, but it's in OCAD in Toronto, and she's actually using all her learning in electrical engineering to come up with all of these really cool ideas on art installation and all that, where you combine like your electrical engineering and how to design circuits with art, and that is just so fascinating to me. And there's a lot of those examples around that you can find, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I love that example, because when you think about products that are sold really well, a lot of times they have great engineering behind them, but they're also aesthetically beautiful. Like, they're aesthetically appealing in some way. And so that's another clear combination of art and creativity with science to create something that is, works fantastically and, performs, but also looks great and, provides that aesthetic balance. Great examples. Other questions? Yeah, 100%.
I just want to say also that beyond the problem solving piece, there's also the communication piece, which is often forgotten in STEM. And one of the biggest issues right now is that we've been living in our little scientific bubble for a long time and haven't been interacting with wide audience as much as we should have. So whenever we make presentations, whether it's in European conferences or if it's for the general audience, whether you're talking to kids or all of the older audience, that creativity piece is really important to get the message across, resonate with people, and really touch their hearts and minds. So it goes beyond problem solving. It's a really important skill even when you're writing your results.
That's such a good point. I'm really glad you brought that up. Yes, here.
As a woman in the trades, I build houses for a living. I've got a daughter who loves to dance. What is some advice that you could give on how to get these younger kids interested in STEM? I find it's hard to find people who want to work and who want to use their brains. So what is some advice on how to start getting these young people stimulated? Because I feel like by grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, it's too late at that point, especially with females into trades.
Great question. Who wants to take that first? Vanessa.
Yeah, totally. So I think that this is where a lot of different services and stuff can come in to help you. So, for example, this calendar, like it's obviously targeted at a more younger audience in terms of seeing yourself in these future careers. So, but there's a million examples of this. Like, not to pick on Becky in the audience right now, but I used to work with Rebecca White, and she runs an organization called Engineers of Tomorrow, which is all about like STEM programming for specifically women, but just in general, STEM programming for kids, and to get them excited and understanding like inclusive language, this creative communication language, so that you're not just learning like, oh yeah, go build a bridge. It's like, where are you selecting to build the bridge? How are the communities impacted bridge? Like expanding the conversation. So there's all sorts of like camps and programs and activities you can do, books you can read. I think that's like a good place to start. And maybe even, I actually just did a grade 9 take your kid to work day with my nephew, and he loves Fortnite, as I'm sure most people know about. It's a video game, and he was so excited to learn about toy product development because it was kind of like adjacent to his interests. So I think, if there is a passion for dance, for instance, like, well, very movement-based. Like where can a couple follow down that? Is there like a kinesiology interest or something with the body, or like finding adjacent interest must be a clever way to go.
I think that's a great suggestion. Anyone else want to jump in? Tina?
I totally agree with what just Vanessa said, because I didn't grow up here, so for me it was, I think, easier. But I think there's a lot of amazing programs and workshops and camps that kids can go to just familiarize themselves with that way of thinking, and building. I remember when I was going to elementary school, we had this program that we would spend I think 2 nights after school to build very simple robots. And I think that was my first introduction to, okay, engineering, I can actually build something that's tangible and you can use it, And I think it's only when kids are introduced to those kind of stuff is where they actually truly understand, okay, I can actually use my brain to create something that was not here before. And that's, I think then your brain just clicks and you're like, okay, I'm actually very powerful and I can still dance, nothing will stop me from dancing, but I can also do engineering, I can also be a technologist and whatever I want to be.
Awesome.
From my perspective, working with the environment, there's nothing like just a good walk outside in nature. So I don't know if that would be something she would get into, but just the exposure of being exposed to nature and feeling it and all that can spark the interest or potential path there.
Awesome.
I mean, it's for product development toys. For me, when I was younger, and there's all the science toys, and it's a very gentle way to get kids into it slowly. I remember having a watch that was powered by a potato, and I just thought it was so cool. And just really nurturing those kind of early indicators of what they might be interested in. And I'm gonna be the devil's advocate too, and say if for me a great piece in figuring out where I actually needed to go was not going to university right away, because I registered. I was registered chemistry, bachelor of chemistry as soon as I got out of high school. I was 17, but then I got there. I was I don't even know what I want to do with this, so I dropped out of my parents right away. But and then I just moved. I was 17. I moved. Somebody else, one of the other girls did that too, and then you kind of find your way, and then you get back to where your interests lie. And for me, it was on science. So it's nurturing those kind of things to make more science choice.
Well, and to your point, it blows my mind when I think I'm 27 now and I still feel immature. To think about the decisions that I had to make at such young ages, it's completely reasonable to take your time at that phase, whether it's high school or university or post-university, because you are still so young in the grand scheme of life. There's all these societal expectations to just go and do everything in a short period of time, but it's not always necessary or even the best decision always.
That's all such great advice, such great advice. And I like the camp idea that I think Vanessa brought up. And of course we have Camp Angie's that Sandra started to teach young girls about engineering. But also with skilled trades, you said you're in skilled trades. We here at Linmar host a camp for girls in grade 7, 6, 7, 8, Sean, is it? 6, 7, and 8, that is focused on skilled trades. It's a week-long camp. We do it with Skills Ontario and teach them about all kinds of different trades. And also, I think the other cool thing about it is they have an assignment that they present out on Friday, a business that they would start with that skill. So, and I love that because it's then it kind of puts the connection together in their heads that if I have a skill, I can be an entrepreneur and start my own business. So, and there's all kinds of those kind of things out there that might be interesting for your daughter. And then the last thing I would say is just find a way, this came up as well from the panelists, that find a way to tweak something that, to connect to something that's of interest to her, right? So, if she, loves food, then, there's a link to chemistry
technology and all these different topics. So, you just need to build a bridge from the thing they're interested in to the area of science, technology, engineering, or math or trades that would support that. Lots of ideas for you. Great. Well, unbelievably, we are out of time. People in the back of the room are pointing at their watches and like winking at me, saying, "Wait, stop," which I don't want to stop because there's this is such a great panel and great women who have such great advice for everybody. So I wish we could spend another hour, but we can't. So I'll say thank you all so much for being part of this panel. Great advice and great inspiration, I think, to young women all over. And we are recording this, by the way, so hopefully we can inspire all kinds of young women that aren't here tonight as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lena to wrap us up. Lena.
Thank you. So much for that insightful conversation, ladies. I personally very much enjoyed your opinions on diversity and intersectionality and how we can all hopefully change the system into something more inclusive for all of us. This will be our wrap-up for today. I thank everyone, especially our role models, for coming in today and for showing us all the examples of women in STEM. I would like to remind everyone that if you did not grab a snack at the end, there's a charcuterie jar for you that